Good evening and welcome everyone to Breaking Through the Glass Ceiling, the Design Leadership Masterclass. I'm Nina Terrell from Talino Venture Labs and I'll be your moderator for today. It's been a super packed week for Design Week and we're halfway through our celebration. So how is everybody feeling? The last 3 days, we've had very inspiring, empowering, very engaging talks, including the two creative workshops earlier from Miss Alessa Lanot and Miss Jelay Manabat. And the day is not yet over, and that's why you're here. So we are ending today's activity with an inspiring talk from one of the most prominent female architects in the Philippines today. I'm super excited to hear from her, as I'm sure you are too. But before I get into our design masterclass, please allow me to thank our incredible partners who've made the first ever virtual Design Week Philippines possible. So our thanks go out to the Department of Trade and Industry, our collaborators, Pineapple Lab in Fringe, Manila, our media partner, Adobo Magazine, and our event partners, Cebu Design Week, Manila Fame, UXPH, NASA Space Apps Philippines, Buen Salido Architects, and a Half, British Council, Life After Breakfast PH, and Crazy About Paper. Thank you everyone for making the virtual Design Week Philippines possible. So all right, let's get right into it and we shall introduce our speaker for tonight. Get ready. Okay, so Ms. Cathy Saldana is the Managing Director and CEO of PDP Architects based in Makati City and another design outsource company called Collaboration Authority. She and her firm have been recognized both locally and internationally. She specializes in hospitality design, retail mixed use, residential high-rises, logistics, industrial, and island development. She is one of those who pioneered sustainable resort design, and we thank you for it, Ms. Cathy. Some of her works are Seda Leo in El Nido, Palawan, Punta Fuego Group, Discovery, and Marriott Hotels. She was recently awarded for Best Architecture Design for an office tower in the Asia Philippine Property Awards for her Diamond Tower project for Damosa Land in Davao City. She is an international associate of the American Institute of Architects, was formerly president of the UP College of Architecture Alumni Foundation, and in 2019, she was elevated as fellow at the United Architects of the Philippines. So let's all welcome to the virtual stage of Design Week Philippines, Cathy Saldana. All right, good evening.
Hello, everyone. Hello. I am excited to be with all of you, powered and fired up to share. And I hope that whether you have a drink with you in hand, you're having an early dinner with your family, you are going to stay with us throughout this evening.
All right. Thank you so much, Cathy. I love the words that you use. So we're actually going to ask the audience, how are you feeling right now? It's almost the end of the week. We have an exciting talk coming up, but maybe type in the comment section how you're feeling, maybe one word or one phrase. And hopefully we can, one word na lang. Let's be creative about the words. I am personally super excited, although that's two words, because it's very important these days, especially for women in the design space, to have a role model and to learn more about breaking the glass ceiling. But we do have male members of the audience, so we also hope that they will be equally inspired because we really aspire for a more inclusive society and a more inclusive creative space. Okay, so also of course, there will be some of you who will want to ask questions or have questions popping up as Ms. Cathy is giving her talk. So feel free to comment down below. And then we have a behind-the-scenes team who will curate those questions, and then we'll discuss them later during the Q&A. All right, so are you ready? Okay, I'm going to give the floor to Ms. Cathy, so please take it away.
All right, well, stay with me as we embark on this journey. It's all about breaking the glass ceiling in design. Let me walk you through some of the skyscrapers of the world. Let me share with you some of the cities in Chicago, in New York, in Seattle, in Manila, See all that glass, all the skyscrapers. Let's break it together. So being a woman in leadership is about creating that legacy. It's all about understanding where you want to go and how, in a world where there are more men in industries like ours, you just need to stand out. So, you enter a Zoom call or a conference room. 10 men, only woman. That's you. Don't be afraid. Just get your voice out there loud, but you don't have to raise it. Just ensure that your timbre is correct. Stay cool. Don't zoom out. Don't be afraid. So, you wear a hard hat in a construction site. That's just one of the many hats that you will wear. As a woman, you're wearing the hat of a mother, the hat of a wife, the hat of a partner, the hat of a business person, the hat of a daughter caring for a sick parent, a friend holding a friend's hand. There are many hats that you're wearing. But as you wear your hard hat in a construction site, you hold it in high esteem and make sure, just like a crown, it should not fall. Okay? Let's keep the slides going. Confidence. This is what you need to have every single day. Never break it. Do not allow others to break you, even if they try. And they will, because they will see how fragile you are. Because there still is that definition of a woman to be tender, to be sensitive, to be delicate. Confidence, keyword. Next word, attention to detail beyond question. And when you are in the field of design, this is what separates the men from the boys and the woman from all the men and all the boys. You are so used to handling your children. You're so used to ensuring schedules are met. You are so used to that little strand on the hair that is not in place. And so when you are designing, whether you're an architect, interior designer, urban planner, furniture designer, graphic designer, industrial designer, attention to detail is beyond question. Speak up. Make sure your voices can be heard. Ensure that it is loud enough, and yet your emotions are firm. Don't break up. When you speak up, do not be shattered. And it should be loud enough to resonate across the room, across the project, loud enough for you to amplify it. Loud enough for you to amplify it, not just where you are meeting, but on social media, as you write, as they write about you. Loud enough for your voice to be heard. And for this to be seen and appreciated. Your work and your voice all together. And one of the most important things as a woman, try to work harder than most. You are used to long hours. You are used to working well. Not necessarily long, but working well so that you can get it done because you know what is important. You know first things first. You know effectivity. You know efficiency. And as you work harder than most, you work smart. I call it the chores of force. So many little things that we have to accomplish to get to our goals. And yet, through it all, there are also many other tasks that we have to fulfill at home. And this is our role as a woman. Do not lose it. Do not lose your role with your husband, with your partner, with your children, with your parents, because those other chores help complete you. Do not think that work is all there is, goals are all there are, accomplishments are all that could ever be. And there are many components of your life, many facets of your life that make you interesting. And those chores are the chores of force. Keep them handy. Keep working at it. Do not ever be afraid. Be unafraid. Do not let other people step on you. If you feel that you are not anymore in the right place, in a business deal, in a partnership, in a project, step back, reflect, understand how will the future be if you will still stay where you are. Be unafraid in revisiting your goals. Be unafraid when you throw in bold colors in your design. Be unafraid if you are choosing to be different, especially in how you weave your design. Be unafraid when you meet people. And be inspired. Be inspired in how you work. You know, your passion will always shine through. And this is how you will inspire others. And as you are also inspired, be inspiring. Be the radiance, the sun, the light, the beam, that window. Be the light that will allow others to see themselves. Inspire others. Show them the way. I like to do that for people. And I like to do that most especially for women. Just yesterday, I got a text from the president of the United Architects of the Philippines about being nominated for a role for women in design internationally. And just keep inspiring because it's going to happen for you. And try to weave an advocacy. Try to weave something that matters. Believe in something. Push for something. Raise funds for someone or a cause. Support that cause. Create that cause outside of your circle so that there is that other goal that you are doing for others. And that makes you better as a woman. And when you do that, stand for something. Stand for what you so believe in that even at gunpoint, you know that this is what you stand for. And you can say it right away. I stand for sustainability. I stand for integrity. I stand for innovation. I stand for women in design. I stand for all these: sustainability, integrity, innovation, women in design. And manage your content. There has to be that content that you provide. It's like writing your thesis. You must contribute to that body of knowledge. And when you are designing, the full body of your design becomes your content that you push to the rest of the world. And that's how you will manage it. And that's how you contribute. That's how you bring something to the table. And we are all designers. Ensure that you have that richness of your portfolio. And be ready, be prepared for it, and update it. Show it. Be proud. And there will be your wealth of experiences. Some of you may still be young. Some of you, just like me, are already approaching my mid-50s. And yet, here I am, ready to share what I have in terms of what I have done and what I have taught so many of my young apprentices and architects. Some of them are so successful in the field of corporate design on their own, or doing so well in Dubai, working with other firms, or on their own, creating a niche, speaking up, talking on YouTube, writing books. And all of that wealth of experiences is part of your book, your portfolio that you share with others. Establish credibility. You will always be questioned as a woman trying to shatter that glass ceiling. But guess what? Make sure that they cannot push you, that your credibility is unflinching, unchanging, dominant, and you are whole. Don't blink. Create your brand. Understand your brand. Work your brand. Live it in every aspect of your life, even on your personal life. Like, you cannot be the bikini-clad girl, and yet you're trying to project yourself to be a strong designer for machinery, for factories. It doesn't work. Everything has to be consistent. You're in fashion, flaunt it. You're in design, your home has to reflect who you are, and that's part of your brand. Own it. Own your brand as you create it. Live it. Own it. It just doesn't exist in your business card. It's in all of you. I call that visual image. Create it. Keep it strong. And more than anything, be famous for your process. Be famous for how you show the world who you are. Be famous for how you produce your documents, for how important it is that your set of drawings are complete and understood. Enlighten others with your substance and methodology. And this is so important. Take notes, everybody. There are 3 important components of communication for every designer: graphical, oral, and narrative. Let me start with graphical. Your drawings must speak for themselves. Your renderings, your portfolio, the richness of your designs. One look at what you have, at your book cover design, your piece of furniture, your mood board, your floor plan, it must be understood. It must be well done. Oral. Oral communication is so important. You must speak up. You must open your mouth. You must know how to handle storytelling, because every design is a story. And yet, through your storytelling, you must be concise. You must be on point, like a ballerina, on point. And be sure that your oral communication clarifies whatever it is you would like to communicate. And learn how to weave the words. Sometimes people want to read about you. People want to read about your work. People want to read about your explanations. And words can help. Brush up on your narratives. And how can you do that? Keep reading. Read every day. Read books. Read from your Kindle. And watch how your words will keep working themselves through as you listen to understand. Never listen to reply. Always remember that. And as you communicate, choose your words with respect for others and for yourself. Always look good. I mentioned that phrase, visual image. It is so important. A good friend of mine, Ivy Almario, puts it so well. You owe it to either your audience, to your office mates, to your husband, to the other clients in the restaurant to look good. And visual image is so important as a designer. It tells people that if you so much as want to take care of the house or the piece of furniture that you are designing, then you will take care of yourself and show it. Develop a standard of care. Exercise responsible control. I learned this from one of the design giants of the world, from Skidmore, Owings and Merrill. This is their dictum. And always, 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 do not be so boxed in that you cannot stretch out. Do not commit to one style, one look, one design. Learn how to approach life in a broad manner, even if you are specializing, even if you have a niche. Learn how to create different pieces of art and design in everything that you're doing. And through it all, be known for your delivery. And that is part of your professionalism. Learning to deliver. Design delivery, strategic delivery, professional delivery, delivery. Get it out there. Show up. And that delivery must be professional, prophetic, and profound. Professional. It's all about ethics and fairness. You are not the only architect, furniture designer, interior designer out there. There's so many of you, so many of us. And in all of this, there is that important value in pricing and in your fees that you must be cognizant of. Professional. Take note of your schedules. Be aware of your deadlines. Arrive on time. Keep to commitments. Professional. Keep your constructive criticisms confined to what is good. Because as a woman, your goal is to lift others up. Picture this, women carrying women. Picture this, women holding other women's hands. That is professional. That is how you break and shatter the glass ceiling. We are not apart. We are together. Professional, new, research, keep reading, keep understanding. You know, design is constantly changing. Be ahead of your game. Start to learn. Create something so that they want to read about you. You're just not reading about others. And on the second note, be prophetic. As a woman, you know, you are more nimble. You're lighter. Be the gazelle. Be the light. Go fast and run ahead. Understand. On the next slide, you'll see that being prophetic is seeing tomorrow. What does it bring? Shape it. You predict it. Use your woman's intuitive skills and your emotions. Be a visionary. And you will see tomorrow. And in being profound, create significance. Have depth. Be long-lasting. Please do not be shallow, my dear women. Do not. Have meaning, definition. Create a timelessness of purpose in everything that you do. Do not ever be called the dumb blonde. Be understood by many. Be lingering in memory and always be unforgettable for good things. And in being profound, understand that you can and you must be written about, that you must be the subject at some point. And through all this, be enduring. As I said earlier, never, ever be shallow. Always be insightful. I wanted to share with you a story. I have a little story about John Gokongwei, the late Taipan who passed away last year. It was no, it was not. 2003. I was the architect builder of the Crown Plaza, one of 7 selected to work on various projects. And I was assigned 10 floors of the rooms, 2 floors of the restaurants, including the main kitchen. It's a pretty big contract. And so my contract went up to the owners like Lance and Frederick Go. And while I was in a site meeting, a slip of paper was passed on to me. And I looked at it. Oh no, what's this about? Architect, you're being asked to step out of the meeting. The boss wants to see you. Oh, the boss? Wasn't he just on the site visit with us? Whom we call FDG? No. We're talking about the really big boss, the chairman. Yikes. What's going to happen? Ooh, okay, we don't know. Sometimes he cancels contracts. Sometimes he saw something he didn't like. We just need you to brace yourself and be prepared for whatever. We'll come with you. Okay, so I went up. I entered the anteroom of the chairman himself. He who started this empire, Robinson's Land, everything. And then he had me ushered in. And then I asked, "Sir, I'm really very honored to meet you." And then he goes, "Cathy, you're probably wondering why I asked to see you. You see, in all my life, running our business, our conglomerate, I have never signed on a contract this big with a woman. I've never signed on any design or construction contract with a woman. I just needed to meet you." I was beyond myself because I was afraid initially. But here it was all about him saying that I have daughters myself and I want to see them strong. They're younger than you, but I want to see them strong. They can also deliver something as big as this for somebody else other than me. I just wanted to shake your hand. And I left that room holding that memory so importantly in my heart. So much so that even if they're not my personal friends and they're my clients, I made sure that I went to his wake even on the last day. I just wanted to salute the man once more for honoring women in design leadership. That's my story with him. And this is another story of mine. This is a high-rise that won in the Asia Property Awards. And what's important for me for this one is all the other competitors were men. And while my client, the guy that the team that I was talking to was led by a man, the vice president, I realized the chairwoman is a woman too. The chairman is a woman. And I am so proud of this because it's a great team with so many women helping lead not just the design team, but also the delivery and the construction. And if I can do it, I know that a lot of you can. Win awards. And through it all, still be the woman, still be the house, still be the home, still be the source of tenderness, still be the source of inspiration, still be the comfort and the warmth, still be the all-embracing source of hugs and smiles, the essence of a woman, and yet be strong enough that through it all, you can still be the road, you can still be the bridge, you can still be the infrastructure, you can still be the high-rise, you can still be the skyscraper, tall and ascending, and hold on always to that nurturing spirit of a woman, because that is what differentiates you. And always remember, you're building spaces, and yet you're building relationships. Keep that in mind. Woman, building, designing, shattering the glass ceiling. This is who we can be. This is who we are. This is what I encourage you to be. Reach out to me on Instagram, Cathy Saldana Siegel. I am so grateful to be here, and I'm so ready to answer your questions.
Wow, that was super packed, Ms. Cathy. I was super inspired and a lot of key points. Maybe before we go into the questions, I'll just also briefly summarize some of the points that stood out for me. I think from everything that you've said, one important thing that stood out was attention to detail. You spoke about this in different ways. You know, really paying attention to detail, being professional, showing up on time, paying great attention to the work that you're doing. And it's not about the accolades, but it's about allowing your work to speak for you. And I think this is very relevant, whether you're male or female, especially in a role of an architect, right? Where you're building spaces for people to move and to live in. Attention to detail is super critical. So that's one thing that I really appreciated about the many points shared. Another thing that I really liked was the latter part when you were talking about how you can be strong but also continue your nurturing side. Be the house, be the home, be the source of nurturing hugs, because very often, and this might have been true especially in earlier years when women were literally fighting, diba? Fighting for rights, fighting to be heard, fighting for equal pay. It almost always seemed like there was always tension, and you had to compete as a woman. But you're saying that it's possible to maintain the nurturing female qualities while being a leader in your space. And we'll get more into that later because the audience has really good questions as well. Another point that I took away, and because I'm a writer by background, was how you talked about using your work as being part of your voice, being heard, telling your own stories. And it doesn't necessarily mean, diba, PR, or not necessarily just being featured or being written about, but having a story to tell through your work, through your advocacies. There's so much. So that's a lot. And we do have a lot of questions here, so thank you very much for that very inspiring talk. I'll start, and then we'll have other questions as well. Again, I mentioned briefly that there was a time when it seemed like women had to compete in the workplace with men, and you did point out that sometimes you step into a room, you're the only female at the table, and you naturally kind of have to make sure that your voice is just as loud or heard even louder. And there are many sectors that still have that until today. But as somebody who leads a team and who deals with clients and even other professionals, let's say in the UAP or in the other networks you're part of, how do you nurture a more collaborative space or a more collaborative instead of a competitive environment, especially when it comes to your colleagues who might feel that competition?
Well, you nurture it in many ways. For example, for us, we encourage people to join teams and be parts of different teams. So they intersect, they overlap, so they also get to know other people. It's just like managing children if you're a woman. I don't have kids myself, right? But I have a whole 9 yards of nephews and nieces. Like I have a nephew on both sides of the family, and I have all my nieces. It's about having them team up. For this particular high-rise in Davao, you're all together here, but some of you overlap in other circles for other projects. And allowing them to share, allowing them to speak up. And in fact, now, because of Zoom and online meetings, it's kind of also easy. Okay, you have to speak up. You have to switch on that video. We need to see your face. And part of promoting greater collaboration is encouraging people to be confident, so that, therefore, when you're confident, you can compete. When you can compete internally and you can be confident within your collaborative team, then you can show yourself to the rest of the world and to your clients and suppliers.
Mm-hmm. That's great. I mean, you did speak of integrity earlier as well, and in buildings, integrity of the building is super important, right? And I suppose integrity of the self is just as important when you're representing yourself through your work. So now, what we will do, we do have great questions from the audience, and what we did was we curated them into a flow so that we start at the beginning of your journey because. For a lot of people, they're also wondering, how did you get to where you are now? But how did you start? So the question that we will start with is from Catherine Pascual, and she asks, how did you start your practice? And when did you feel ready to do so?
Okay, well, just like everybody who normally should start, you start small. It's hard when somebody starts so big already and then you make a lot of mistakes, especially in a big project. So you have to be careful. Take only bite-sized chunks, what your age, what your experience can handle, what your team can work through. Do not overcommit. Do not start to be too ambitious. All good things are well laid out, beginning with a good foundation. And always start it that way. I started small. I started in a small office before I have my office now in Makati City, where I could simply walk to all my big clients, developers. But before, it was small, it was tiny. It was almost like in your garage. And that's where you begin. And that dream is nurtured through the classic hard work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you mentioned also earlier, work hard, but also work smart.
Right.
So the next question now is, of course, as you're, in that process of establishing yourself, how do you recognize and develop your own design style? And I'm as somebody who also likes watching a lot of these, design videos, and I used to devour Architectural Digest. How do you achieve that collaboration between client and architect or designer, but still be able to infuse your signature style?
It has to be a design vocabulary that you are comfortable with and that your circle of clients can both afford and also want. So there has to be that symbiotic relationship between need, requirement, and what you present. So it is important, though, that you do not force yourself into a certain aesthetic. And once you find that comfort, it'll flow. It'll flow so well because it's almost like second skin to you. So whether you're doing it so modern or whether you are known for your colors or whether you are known for a particular look, as I've said earlier, make sure that you be known for delivery.
Oh, okay. There's a follow-up question to that from the live audience right now who's watching. So, how do you manage them on the clash of ideas? So, of course, you mentioned about there should be a certain level of comfort, but of course, there will be conflicts or tensions in certain ideas. So, how do you acknowledge and cater to the different ideas being given to you? And then, what's your approach to do you collate? And how do you basically decide?
Okay, as a woman, you are so used to having all your chores of force. You're so used, oh, wait a minute, I need to ensure that my wardrobe for tomorrow is this and that and this and that. Oh, I need to make sure that the food tomorrow is good. This is what we're going to cook for the party. This is what I'm bringing to my in-laws this weekend. All of that are all in your head. So for your work, organize it in a mind map so that it's so easy for you to communicate it. Get it organized in your head first, in your mind map, and that it will flow so well because it's not going to come out jumbled. That's a secret to it. Collate it. Collate it first in your head so well, so quickly, and then curate it. Infuse it with your personal style. It's going to flow so well. Get organized.
That's great because mind mapping is a great tool, not just for design, but for many other areas. And your style of, like mind mapping it first and then you curate, that's also a great process for even for non-designers.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So that's a really great tool. And there are a number of questions here about, moving up into leadership. So as an architect, you had to be an expert of your craft. But of course, you also had to move up into managing and leading people. What was that like for you, and how did you step up into that position of management and leadership?
You have to have that balance. You have to still ensure that the creative voice is still yours and that of your associates. Make sure that your time is balanced into the creative side and the technical, which means the delivery of all the drawings and all the deadlines, the coordination with engineering, the visiting of the job sites, and the management. So make time for management. And whenever I teach other people, whether it's my staff or other people in other webinars, when you're managing, it's always three things: administration, all about people; accounting, finance, all about your money, know how to monetize what you're doing; and number three, know how to sell, business development. And it's not about hard sell, but all about keeping your clients. So those three are so important in management.
Wow, I will follow up with that because I've heard many designers and creatives say, but I'm a creative. I don't know how to sell myself. Di ba? Kaya nga ako nag-creative and somebody has to do it. So how did you balance that? Or what are your tips for those who are super introverted? They'd rather stick to their craft. But as we know that you do have to build your personal brand, and you did mention that earlier in your talk as well.
Well, you have to strike that balance. I normally look at it as about 30% of my time is devoted to management. And that leadership involves, as I've said earlier, accounting, finance, administration, and business development. So that's 30% of my time. 30% is also creativity. 30% is looking at drawings, checking them, sketching, um, looking at colors, assigning the mood board. And then the remaining 40% is delivery, because it's so important how it will be executed. And that is such a big factor. So 30 management, leadership; 30 creativity; 40 execution and delivery. Follow through, very important.
Yeah, there and you also mentioned that a number of times in your talk as well, that it's really important to get it done. There's also a book on that called Execution, and it's really just about making sure that the vision gets realized, which is critical for the work that you do. Now, another question from the audience from Avery Gono is, how can you make your brand known? So, and here, knowing that the support you will get is either small or none, or maybe this is for the ones that are starting out. Palang. So let's say you've done the work, but this is really about promoting the brand and telling your story.
You know what? You young people, you're so fortunate now. There's the internet. There is that whole web where you could have your own Instagram page, and with proper ethics, you can show. It's a show and tell world now. Back when I was younger, we didn't have that advantage. Your business card, your portfolio, these were your only ways of telling the world. But more importantly, show a good product and it'll speak for itself. But yes, use the power of social media, use the internet, be known, be unafraid.
All right. Those are really good questions about personal leadership and mastery of your art and your craft. I'll move on to some questions that were submitted earlier, and this would have to do with the role of design, in society. These are really interesting questions as well. So here, how do we step up our game as designers and continue to be relevant in changing the world? By Orencio Loza.
Innovate, deliver well, and as I've said, in your professional delivery, be profound and be prophetic. Be professional.
I'd like to follow up on that, if I may. Seeing that you've
Sure.
also pioneered sustainable design in,
In
luxury, let's say,
resorts, yeah,
resorts.
island development, yeah.
And
But so many others
yes,
are very good at it as well.
yes. And there was a time when sustainable design was seen to be a niche. It's only now when, it's really becoming more widespread. But how did you begin to take up that mantle and say, okay, I'm going to push for this, and there might be some pushback, but how did you stand your ground and say, no, this is the right way to go?
So prior to studying in the University of the Philippines College of Architecture, I studied high school and grade school in Marinol. Our thrust for environmental preservation there is so strong. You have the most beautiful girls' campus with all the lovely trees. And we were told how to keep the environment clean, how important it is that we would not throw any piece or candy wrapper, any trash, into that little canal that goes all the way to Ateneo, that crosses Katipunan, that goes all the way to Cubao. So it's all about loving the earth and the environment. And then along the way, I had this great fortune of working with the late Gina Lopez, who also emphasized, no, I repeat that, who overemphasized lovingly the whole concept of loving the Philippines, the earth, the environment. And before, admittedly, sustainable design was a buzzword. Sustainable design was a feature, but now it's a standard. Every project has to be sustainable if you want it to care for people. There's that whole UN Sustainable Development Goals, the 17 hashtags that you take care of. And this is so important. And about 10 of those are vital to design. So, and that's my story. That's how I developed it. Love the earth, love the trees, love nature, desire to want to live naturally, eat organic food, breathe in fresh air. Want all these, and it'll reflect on your design.
All right, that's great, and so I will remind the audience to please, if you haven't looked up the Sustainable Development Goals yet, please do. Ms. Cathy mentioned 10 out of 17 could actually be relevant to the design space, and this flows into the next
Right.
question I will ask from the audience. From Joseph Kia, he asked, "How can designers and artists have a more commanding influence on society?" So I guess the SDGs answer is one of them, but would you have any other thoughts on, let's say, artists from other crafts or other sectors, and how can people use their craft to have a more commanding influence?
Once again, use technology, use the media, use the internet, get out there. You have a really great viewpoint now. You have the world watching you. Create your content and then manage it. You have a great song, you have a beautiful painting, show it, own it, create your brand, make sure that people see it. It's not about showing off, it's about being unafraid. It's about getting your talent out there. And guess what? Art, we need art. We need art in our homes. We need art on our walls. We need colors. We need design. We need the way things are put together. I love this particular line in The Devil Wears Prada, that movie, where the young assistant giggled when the main character was talking about a shade of blue and how important it is for you really to pay attention to details. What kind of blue? And that blue was a cerulean blue. And how it ended up being the influencer blue that affected not just haute couture, but also that $10 sweater that you'll find in a common clothing store. So create your content, understand your detail, get it out there. If you have something great to show and to share, it's a show and tell world now. Come on, guys. Do it. I encourage you.
Wow, that's a great piece of advice, and you did mention that people now are so lucky that there are these platforms. There are a number of questions, but I did want to follow up on that and tie it to one of the other questions we saw. Was it how do you know that you're showing off too much, or is there such a thing as too much self promotion, too much personal branding? And you mentioned ethics also. What for you is the right balance?
When you keep showing the same thing over and over, and when you know that you're already overstepping, and you know that you are not allowing people to share the space, then you're
Mhm.
not creating that balance that humanity needs. More than anything now, this pandemic has taught us that. How exactly must we live in this world? We must share it. And even that space for you, where you tell the world who you are and what you do, that space is shared. Make sure there's room for everyone.
That's a great thought. Also, because I think here in the Philippines there are so few civic spaces that maybe we need to be reminded of the need to share, that spaces are shared, even virtually. And it's great that you brought up the pandemic, because
Virtual as
that would
well. Yeah.
have been my next question. And I'm sorry, Kathleen. Okay, Kathleen Ann Escanilla is asking, what advice can you give graduating architecture students amid the pandemic?
Wow. A lot of people are asking me that. And a
Yeah.
lot of people are filling our info box in our website and my email about applicants. You know, there is work out there. There is so much to do. What advice can I give you? Prepare your portfolio, prepare your CV well, write, send it. Once again, be confident about yourself and share the talent that you have and learn. Use the pandemic as a period for learning. So much webinars, courses online, books to read. You cannot keep watching telenovelas. You cannot keep eating. At some point, use this pandemic to learn. You know, in 1918, they had that flu. It was the pandemic during that time. And I read an essay about it. People stayed at home. People spent time with families. And people read. People read books. People shared. People wrote poetry. So it's a time for you to create your content. It's a time for you to create your design philosophy. Work on your portfolio. Read, 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 learn.
And actually, the great thing is there's now YouTube. So actually, you have access to global information. You can
That's
actually look at
right.
other pieces
Yeah,
of work, and not have to pay for airfare, right? to see to
that's
see the
correct.
world. So the pandemic is also making us realize that we can be resourceful about gathering information. And there's another question related to that, for your own practice, or maybe for also your team. This is from Diego Almeida, and he asks, how are you able to adapt to the new normal, and what measures would you take knowing that the effects of the pandemic would linger for a while?
So we knew that the lockdown was already happening, and we knew that come Monday we could not come to work. So I instituted a bit of management control and authoritarianism in the sense that I need to understand anybody who will do overtime. I need to understand anything that will affect our variable costs and our fixed costs because it will be a time for us to conserve energy, resources, money, time, talent. Conserve. We need to play it out for the long haul. And so, how was I able to adapt to the new normal? We planned. We planned it. We created methods for managing. We created methods for communication. Oh, the Viber groups now that are so alive within our office, the links for sharing information. And we need to systematize the way we would handle distribution of money, how we would handle transport, how we would make sure that more than anything, more than projects, more than money, there is this most vital part of our business that we need to take care of, and that's our people. And that was where we focused. And with that in the center, our people, it was easy now to understand the measures that we were putting together so that we knew what our priorities were.
That's true. And what we've seen of many employers, many companies, is that it's really those that put people first that we're also able to rally their teams together. And I think that's the one of the biggest reminders to us all that this is a
That's right.
pandemic spread by people. It's also one where we care for people, so it really goes back to people. Another question about the new normal and ways of moving forward is, let me just check. Okay, from Mina Madarang, what trends do you foresee in the future when it's time to go back to the old normal? But I'll follow up and say, I mean, is there really such a thing as going back to the old normal? Or is this an opportunity to create a
What
better
trends do
normal
I see?
form?
It'll be a while before people want to go back to those clubs and those bars where they are all huddled so tightly together, cheek to cheek, shoulder to shoulder, body to body. It'll be a while. So do not think that you can design that way. Do not think that your beautiful bench in the park will be sat down by 8 people when, in fact, 2 people, socially distanced, will find themselves comfortable in it. Understand that the new space bubble is the most important now. The new definition of personal space will help you craft your design. And that is the most important thing. Plus, contagion control, touch points are so vital now. People don't want to touch too many. Even when you check in for a restaurant or for a building that you're entering, bring your own ball pen. Don't touch the guard's pen. So all these things, people will want to be individual again. People will be concerned about their space. This is my space. This is my space bubble. And this is where I work. This is what I'm comfortable with. So the whole anthropometrics of human dimension has changed. And that'll affect all the trends, whether it be a bench design or an airplane seating or a restaurant layout, or even how mats are laid out in the park. It'll be a while before you want to huddle with a stranger again. And only then will normal be back to old. That's my answer.
Okay. Yeah, but okay, so obviously things are going to change, and you did mention that personal space is going to be important. But we've also heard of creating a better normal, like this is an opportunity for a reboot. And you mentioned some of these areas, but what do you think would be our biggest opportunities to create that better normal or a more sustainable normal moving forward?
You know, this crisis, this pandemic has taught us we should never go back to it. We should never go back to being wasteful. We should never go back to disturbing the habitat of wild animals who should not end up on our plate anyway. And that's how this all started. That lack of respect for the environment. When that beautiful animal that helps populate forests and helps propagate seeds from tree to tree, dropping the seeds to create a slew of more trees and more plants and more food, ending up on your table, it is so not right. And that is such disrespect for that balance. And that's how we got ourselves to where we are now. And we should never go back to that. That respect for the earth, that respect for others. We should know that we are never heading back to that disrespect. Should not. I really like your questions, guys. I am learning also from you. Why? Because I'm understanding how your mind works. What's in your head, what causes your anxiety, what makes you curious. Thank you. Thank you for your questions. And I think there are a little more.
All right. I'm sorry I disappeared for a while there. All right. So there have been a lot of questions about old normal, new normal. There's I think I also saw another question there from the from our list earlier. Let me just let me just check. So aside from all of these things we've mentioned, the pandemic, I have to check that concept now of collective and communal spaces. Since more and more of us are going to want our personal spaces, what trends do we have to look forward to, or how can we build? Are there opportunities for greener spaces, especially in our cities that are super dense right now? And what are the opportunities for young architects and designers to innovate in this area?
Aha! Our city in Metro Manila is one of the densest in the world. But guess what? If you go to the provinces, even just nearby, Bataan, Batangas, Cavite, Laguna, Quezon, go a little further north, you have Bulacan, you have Pampanga. There is so much to do. So much spaces to create, to curate, to recreate, to renovate, to refurbish. That 16, 18 square meter home that you have because your parents gave you that little space, make a whole beautiful cocoon out of it. Surround yourself with that which inspires you. Because when you are inspired, you will live a better life. And you will be better not just for others, not just for your work, but also for yourself. So much. There's so much to do. In our islands,
wow.
We are still so undeveloped.
Yes. And we're actually so excited for people to begin looking out of the city, because that's also become a trend, right? So they're now looking out of the city and looking out of condos and looking back into, the suburbs and all that. But we'll have one final question. And when we were working backstage, I remember that I wanted to ask this. So there are also some male members of the audience here, and although this is a talk about breaking the glass ceiling, so for our male colleagues, mentors, what advice would you give them to help empower the other female members of their team, so that we can create more inclusive workspaces, and we can really bring out the power of the collaboration between the genders?
It always begins with respect. Respect your female members, just as you would respect your siblings, your mother, your cousins, your sister. It also gives you that opportunity to let people shine, let women shine, and also understand that when it comes to thinking and intellectual capabilities, capabilities for research, capabilities for design, we are all equal. It takes two to tango. It takes two to bring forth humanity. And having that and beginning with respect becomes an all-inspiring source of wisdom for you. And this is how it can be a better world. Respect. And I know that there are many men out there, and we respect you too.
For Q&A section. Agree. And thank you so much. That wraps up the Q&A section. So we will ask Ms. Cathy to share any final thoughts before we close out the program.
First of all, I want to say thank you to all of you for staying on, for listening, to inspiring, just as you are also my inspiration. I would not have thought out an entire spill if it weren't for you. Thank you. Thank you to everyone out there, young and old, designers, non-designers, no matter what, architect, interior designer, furniture designer, graphic designer, man or woman. I'm here for you. And thank you. My last and final message for this particular talk, because I know we're all going to stay in touch together, is this: be confident, be credible, be creative, deliver well. And for tonight, I want you to click out by thinking this: professional, profound, prophetic. That's who you are.
All right. Thank you so much, Miss Cathy. That was super packed, and I actually encourage everybody to go back and review the talk and take notes again and reflect on a lot of the points that were discussed tonight. It was a very packed session, and thank you so much to everybody for joining us this evening, and thank you to Miss Cathy for all of those insights. So, if you've enjoyed the talk, if you have any other thoughts from that, please tell us in the comments section. And to those who registered, okay, please don't forget to answer our feedback form as well to get your e-certificate. And we want to know how we can make Design Week Philippines a better experience. And please share the celebration with your friends. Use our hashtag DesignWeekPH in all of your social media posts. And we will be thanking our partners, the Department of Trade and Industry, Pineapple Lab, and Fringe Manila, our media partner, Adobo Magazine, our event partners, Design Week, Manila Fame, UXPH, NASA Space Apps Philippines, Buen Salido Architects, and a Half, British Council, Life After Breakfast PH, and Crazy About Paper. Now, we do have master classes and workshops in store for you, and registration is still open, so please head over to Design Center's social media pages, and that would be DTI-Design Center of the Philippines on Facebook. This pandemic will not stop us from learning and exploring new things, and Ms. Cathy did mention this is the time to learn and explore. So again, this is Nina Terol from Torino Venture Labs. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a good evening, everybody.